Good morning, welcome to Satsang. Let's make some silence first. Okay, With certain scriptures, for those who have studied a little bit, you will find a paragraph towards self-inquiry. And that says that self-inquiry should be practiced only by those who have a pure heart. What does this mean? And why is it written this way? It could be written like self-inquiry, the practice of self-inquiry will not give fruits until the heart is purified. Why is this put this way? Because as seekers move around, this seems to be the idea that purification will come during practice and then will bear fruits. But it is written specifically in that way. The practice of self-inquiry should be practiced only by those of a pure heart. And it is quite simple, the answer. The mode of the mind which is purified, and the one who is not purified yet will go to these impurities in a moment. They are completely different, see? Because the quest for truth in an impure mind, it is something to improve circumstances. It is something to improve normal life. It is something to improve the future, to achieve circumstantial happiness, even if it's not seen this way, because this goes deeper and deeper and deeper. It's very difficult to have a clear vision of this. So what are these impurities of the mind? And what is the absence of these impurities? Well, the absence of these impurities is stillness. See, stillness. I've talked in previous other stillness of the body, and complete stillness. The body-mind remains still. What is this stillness? It is a state, more or less a state. It is still a state where you are not disturbed by desires, disturbed by attachments, disturbed by the need to control, to intervene, to do something, do this, do that. So this stillness, this quietude, this is the fruit of a pure heart. Because to achieve this stillness, to become effortless, all these desires have to be shunned away, or else it is impossible. You see, so an impure heart is the one who has still worldly desires. And the worldly desire, it is something which is connected to improvement of human life. So even the vision of freedom, the desire for freedom, if it is still connected to improvement of human life, it is a worldly desire. The desire for liberation, only liberation, it is the highest, and this is to be preserved. But the desire for liberation, for a better life, this is worldly, and it has to be cast out. So as these goals for the improvement of life, they are there, as this attachment to sense pleasures are there, the mind is actively engaging in the pursuit and the improvement and the amplification of all these sense pleasures to create the circumstances that it believes that will bring happiness. So a mind which is driven by these things, it is not ready, has no stillness, no silence. And in this mode, all this spiritual wisdom will be used, and the attitude of the seeker will be, I'll choose this makes sense, so I'll take it in. This doesn't make, put it out, grab this, grab that. It is choosing all these things, interpreting, giving the interpretation to these wisdoms, and adapting it and reshaping his own world, what he calls his reality. So something that would open, clear the path for liberation becomes a prison, something that will not let you go through when your time is running out. Because before the time starts running out, it is difficult to see the lack of fruits of your work. And for this, for emptying, for turning away from sense objects, from worldly engagements, investments, and all of this, you have to practice something which is the practice of a spiritual discipline, which is quite important, fundamental, and it is titiksha. Some of you have heard about this, others didn't. Titiksha, this funny name, it is the practice of bearing suffering in an undisturbed way. You see, to learn to endure pain without losing your peace, without getting disturbed by this. So this is what separates seeker of truth from the seeker of well-being, because the seekers of well-being, they are still not mature, and they are driven to run from the experience of suffering. This is what is driving them. Circumstantial suffering, because they understand, they believe that suffering is outside of them, and they must do things in a way that they will not be exposed to suffering. They will not be present in circumstance. Suffering will not come to them. So this is why the idea of but if the one is a liberated being, then no suffering there. So that will mean that situations of suffering will not be there. And this is naive observance. So titiksha separates the seeker of well-being from the seeker of truth, because this bearing suffering without losing its peace, without agitation, this is a great preparation at a lot of levels, and it is quite need for this purification of the heart. Because turning your back to one of these qualities of that stillness that I'm talking about, it is called vairagya, dispassion. Dispassion, the lack of passion for the worldly, for the world. Don't bother sending video calls to this number, because this is not for, so WhatsApp is just for you to send your messages in written form. Even if you send this voice message, it will make things more difficult for me to read and answer. So please don't send again. Don't send. I will answer to this later. So this passion, it is an attitude towards the world, an attitude which is based on wisdom, which is based on direct experience. And for this, and it is an effortless state that requires effort in the beginning, because you know that these senses, these sense objects, they are there to distract you from the highest. If you have studied a little bit, or if you have, how do you say this, life experience, you will see that this is the case. So letting go of all of these will create pain for different reasons. I've covered them through these satsangs a little bit, and I will cover them also in the future. But for now, let's keep it this way. And this attitude of bearing the suffering in an undisturbed way, this is what makes your work become alive, real. And this is what changes the onset of the mind and allows it for purification. If it's not there, this attitude, then all these impurities will be there, and you will use whatever wisdom, including or especially self-inquiry, to reshape your world, try to make it better, and this will become a big cage. And the highest becomes the lowest. So for those who cannot practice meditation, and they cannot practice it because it goes against what they are really looking for, because it disturbs their illusion. But still, the drive, the call, it is there, the spiritual call. So instead of going through these disciplines and disciplining the mind, purifying it, they jump to the highest because nothing to be done there. But then the life of the body comes to an end, or comes close to the end, and things become very different, because then you have a glimpse of the emptiness of all of that. And while you are still undertaking this with the hopes in front of you, your mind will give you experiences with these practices and all of this that resembles what you have been reading about. But eventually, this becomes a cage that it is quite difficult, almost impossible to break. It's never impossible, but it will become almost impossible. So it is the same words as I've said previously about becoming, if you want to become the best, then become the best seeker of truth. And that means cultivate all these qualities. And this passion is one of the big ones. And for that, learning to bear pain in an undisturbed way, it is very important. And gaining distance from the sense objects altogether. It's not real, so why am I entangled with all of this? And if the noise is there, as you want to remain silent, to deepen your silence, and there is agitation in the mind, thoughts are going through, then all these worldly attachments, worldly goals are there. This is your way to see. If after a while of resting in silence in the presence at the source, thoughts start bubbling up, worldly investments are still there. Worldly attachments are still there. Sense pursuits are still there. So they have to be cut down again. So our friend that was making these using video calls is asking how to do meditation. Well, there was a satsang directed towards meditation where a meditation technique was taught, and meditation, not the meditation. So it's just a meditation technique that more or less everyone can practice. And if you intensify it, it will bring what you need to start. So we'll ask them to put the link of that satsang on the chat so you can watch that satsang. Now, Peter, is all our pursuit for worldly pleasure a cover-up for our pain? As I'm getting a sense of a deep sadness in my energetic heart. Yes, not just that. It's not just a cover-up for your pain. This is at the more superficial level. So people are moving and running here, running there, towards their sense objects, their pleasure and their happiness, so that they can cover the pain which is there, suppress it, not feeling it. But in reality, all those running around secures your stock of pain, because pain has no existence in itself. It is, it's not real. So it needs constant food. It doesn't survive without this food. And the food is circumstances where you can experience that pain and renew your stock of pain. So worldly life, this sense-oriented life, it is about securing your stock of pain. So it is quite contradictive. So it's not just about, it's not even intelligent, because there is this idea, there is cleverness and intelligence. Cleverness is something which is connected to survival, to survive. And intelligence is something that allows to live, opposing to surviving only. So it's not intelligent, because all those activities connected to improve, make the future better, improve life, or just have a little bit of taste of pleasure in here and there, this is just to secure pain. If you cannot see it, then just reflect a little bit about this and how these cycles of your experiences end really. And they all mature. When you're having these nice experiences, there is a part of you that still remains in the suspicious mode. But when things become painful, there's something there that says, I knew it. It was too good to be true. It was this. Because it is the moment that your world is confirmed and balance is established again. So it's not just a cover-up. You see, most people see it this way. They run, and now in this moment in time where people are not being allowed to move, to get out from their houses, to run away from their worlds, all these pains will start arising and screaming inside. A lot of people will have a lot of problems with this, because the boogeyman that was coming after them, they cannot run away again. So crisis will emerge intensely. But in a sense, it is this covering up you're talking about, but it is securing your pleasure. And if you're intensifying your practices, if this is the case, and this deep sadness is emerging, this is very good sign, because it is a signal that you are accessing your stock of sadness, which is the basis of worldly activity, of sense-driven activity. It is the seeds. It is the seeds, because without that sadness, what happiness would you be looking for? Everything would be fine. So as this is arising, these are the seeds. And if you just live it without doing anything to change any circumstances, without going to get circumstantial pleasure, that can be many things, big things, very small things. Even just food, for example, can be a way of suppressing this sadness. The pleasure which is taken through here. So if you can just live that sadness which is arising, you will see that it will become very, very intense. But if you persist without doing anything to change circumstances, it will release, it will remove itself. And then your stock of sadness will decrease. And as it decreases, this experience, this outer experience, becomes unimportant. It doesn't mean that it becomes inexistent. It will become unimportant, because the world will continue to turn around. But if you don't give importance to it, how can it affect you? So if you're practicing meditation, intensifying your practice, and this sadness is coming, this is a good signal. Usually before this sadness to arise, usually something else comes to stop that meditation. But if it is arising, it means you have persisted and you need to remain there. It is sadness, it can be intense pain. Sadness is the bottom. On top of it, more superficial, is this pain, angers, and all these things that are built. But sadness is the seed. And when sadness is arising, the tendency is to look around and see what are the reasons for this sadness. Let me change things so that I don't experience sadness. And this pushes again the seeds into the earth, and they sprout, and they continue to sprout and to generate more seeds. This is how human life continues. And without this suffering, the images of happiness would collapse. They would be meaningless. No need for them. So a lot of interpretations of the ancient teachings, of the teachings. A lot of twistings, adapting, and all this has been made for the modern seeker of truth. And there is no such thing as a modern seeker of truth. You see, life may have, circumstances may be different, but they are the same, because it is just circumstances. And all circumstances different from another. But it is the same. It is the pursuit of and the continuance of preservation of illusion versus self-realization. It is the same. And it has become more difficult because there is more comfort, there is more sense pleasures available, easy accessible. So there's a lot of promises, see? A lot of more seductions. And in those promises, in those seductions, there are these twisting of the teachings that makes it fit. Everything is fit for everybody. Just choose what you deem it is better, do that, and or do that, no, nothing to be done. So things actually have become more difficult, because when life was more simple, when less comforts were available, the vision of the value of these things was more accessible. Now it is more difficult to have this vision. It's more easy to get mingled, attached, distracted. So if these disciplines, these spiritual disciplines that come before self-inquiry, if there was a time where these disciplines were important, this is the time that they are more and more important, because people are weak. Seekers have become weak because of their attachments, because of comfort, dependencies, and all of this. They have become weak. Everything makes a big impression in the mind. But in the end, it is not that difficult, not that complex. Worldly desires bring restlessness, maintain your delusions, suffering, and all of this. Letting go of all of this brings peace, silence, stillness. And that stillness, that silence, that peace, it is the real meditation mat, where you sit and you rest and dissolve in. Not that difficult. So purification of the mind, purification of the heart. Because there are certain levels, and these superficial levels, the desires for liberation, for better circumstances, they more or less are put in the same package. But there is the real desire for liberation, which is more deeper than all these things, and it needs wisdom to make it accessible. Only wisdom opens the gates. But the wisdom is something that has to be there, it has to resonate. And if this noise is there, it is impossible. Wisdom will only, if accessible from the outside, because from the inside, impossible. And from the outside, it will be twisted, adapted, given a new meaning to, how do you say, to be in tune with what is inside. So if this restlessness is there, body cannot sit still, it's too agitated, pain, gross pains, and all of this. The mind, if it's restless, when you sit straight, this makes a difference, and you want to meditate and stay in silence. If you're not doing this, then you have no idea how things are there, really. It is just make-believe construction, and it's fit only for you, because not even those who are around you believe in it. But if you are practicing meditation and no silence, restlessness, thoughts invade, that means that desires are there. It is sense-oriented mind, and even your aspirations for freedom are in this context. So freedom eventually will mean an improvement of your life, a better life for the individual, eventually. And this, like I said, it's not easy to access directly. For the majority it is, But if you're good playing hide and seek with yourself, then it is more difficult and it takes time and evaluation and reflection and being the devil's lawyer about whatever is arising there and questioning its real intentions and motivations. So, and the practice of titiksha that I was talking about, to learn how to bear pain, it is about the pain which is concern to detachment to dispassion, because there's pain everywhere. In every life there is pain, and there is the pain of stubbornness of the worldly endeavors, and there is the pain connected to the spiritual ones, which is about the worldly ones also, because the pain of detachment is because of attachment. The pain of dispassion, or before dispassion, is there as a natural state. It is because of passion, of dependency of these images of happiness. So it is the pain that you need to learn how to bear, is the pain of letting go, of letting go. And this is what you will do if you're a seeker of truth. If you're just a seeker of well-being, then same old, same old. So instead of pursuing immediately the self-inquiry, purification of the mind, dispassion, detachment, having this clear vision, I want nothing else from this world. This is a need. And as you move away from it, all your attachments to it will become visible, tangible, touchable, and cuttable. I don't know if this word exists, but I think you get the idea. It becomes possible to cut them all. If you're not seeing, impossible. And whatever fast answers your mind is giving you, they are not true. They are there just to justify that world, nothing else, and keep you distracted. So if restlessness is there in the mind, if there's no silence, no peace, and I'm not talking about a little bit of peace, if from peace comes then agitation, thoughts arising, and all of this, so this purity is not there yet. So what is best? To use this small amount of peace you have and practice self-inquiry, for example, and waiting because it gives nothing, gives a lot of things, and the majority not good ones, because like I explained previously, it becomes your delusion. You make a transference. The best is to intensify your practices, intensify that silence through the practice of detachment and dispassion towards the world, and cutting with these worldly investments, increasing your silence. Then, as it completes, then you can just rest in it and let dissolution begin. Because eventually you will persist, and you will have to go back and do this work. The difficulty is for the one who has spent so many years in college, then going back to kindergarten, it seems almost impossible. And your path as a seeker of truth, you have to be, it has to be possible for you to question whatever you are doing. What does this mean? If it is serious, you have to be able to look at what you're doing in an honest way and question it. Why am I doing these things? What am I hiding from myself? What am I preserving here with all these things? Because if you are in the mode of just justifying what you are doing, then this by itself, if you're not able to question in an objective way what you're doing, this in itself shows that it is worldly investments. It is a movement towards circumstantial happiness and not real happiness. If you have any questions about this, send your certainties or whatever. Send and we'll talk about it if you want. You can send now if you're watching this later. You can send the questions whenever you are seeing. You don't need to send only during satsang. And I will answer as they arrive. So we'll just wait a little bit. If there are no more questions, then we will end. Hmm. My friend, I already answered this. The link will be put below in the comments. It's already there, the link for the satsang of meditation. So you can watch that satsang, and it explains a lot about meditation. Not a lot, but what is needed more or less. And there is a meditation technique taught also. So watch that first. If you need anything else, then ask. Okay, so if there's no more questions, then oh, there's question coming. Okay. So this weekend, we are not sure yet if there will be satsang. but we will post on the Facebook and whatever. Okay, I have a tendency to nod off and drowsiness in meditation. Well, I have spoken this in other satsangs. You see, there's no time, too much time available to put the titles in the satsangs that are in the YouTube. But there's a lot of things there that if you have the patience to go through, well, it might be worthwhile. But this drowsiness in meditation, this is more or less one of the last resorts. It is a protection mechanism of your world, you see. So there's a lot of things that influence this, and there's a lot of things you can do to counter this drowsiness, but you have to counter it. You have to conquer your alertness. This nod off, I'm not sure what this means. So if you can improve this, it is better, because this expression I'm not really sure of what it is. But drowsiness, yes. So the time that you are meditating, the type of food that you are eating, all of this makes a difference. And if you can change, you can reduce quantity of food, make it more subtle, more simple and nurturing, it is better. Not stimulating and not too much heaviness, because there are certain food means something more that what you put through your mouth. It is everything you put through your senses. This one being also one of them. So the type of food that you are taking, this will make a difference and impact in the alertness of your mind. And these are all resistances, barriers that arise to stop, to take the pot out of the stove, out of the fire. And these are obstacles that need to go through. So the rest, there's someone else asking here, how much quantities of food one must eat a day? You see, your body is addicted to a lot of things, and more or less that's not even important. It is now, it is important for what you want. So the quantities, you see, you have people that eat every 3 hours, for example. For meditation, this is used. Even for health purpose, it's not good. And there are those who eat nothing. In between, there are those who eat 3 times a day, and there are those who just eat roots, just some roots. And in between, and in between, and in between, there's a lot of things. So you start from where you are, and you will reduce the food depending on what you're doing, and you can keep on reducing it and reducing it. And the less you eat, the less need you will have for rest, the more alert you will become. It is, they go hand in hand together. More food, the more need for rest, the more drowsiness, more sleepiness that there will be. It is like this. So how much to sleep, how much to eat? There is a point. There is a point. If I explain this, I will rob you the experience of it. So this is enough. Reducing food, The body will be angry about that, but if you're not associated with it, it will relax in 3 days, more or less. It stops producing those acids and all those things. But then there is attachment to these pleasures of the senses. And this is the most difficult part because the body gets used to it very fast. The rest takes time. Peter, drop in and out of wakefulness. Okay. Can't sleep for 5 minutes and I'm back to alertness. Would there be tamas in the mind that's stopping this meditation? Of course. For everybody, the first thing that you will have to deal with is tamas, attachments, and all of this, sleepiness, food, intent. This is tamas. This feeling tired, heavy, drowsiness. This is all, and this. How do you say this? Preguiça. Alguém tem aí? Laziness. I always forget this one. Laziness. So this is all connected to tamas, and this is the first energy that needs to be transformed. So in a worldly environment, this rest and then intense activities. This is a cycle that tamas goes to rajas and rajas get back to tamas. But in spiritual practices, the action of the spiritual action will transform this tamasic energy into rajas, and because it is a spiritual activity, it transforms this rajas into sattva. Without it, they just nurture each other. So this is, yes, it's just another way of saying the same, tamas in the mind. The Om mantra must sustain me in activities, but it doesn't sustain me. Any advice? Well, can you elaborate a little bit on this? In which activities? And what is not sustaining it? Because practice is always giving you a feedback of what you're really doing. See? And for you, you said that you were in the jaws of the tiger. So what does this mean? Are you getting used to the tiger's teeth? Are you just learning how to rest there in the tiger's jaw? Because if you're in the tiger's jaw, this is pointing something which is important for your next step. If you're not giving that next step, then the lights turn off, more or less. So what does this mean? It is not sustaining. Is it not sustaining itself present there all the time? Because if it's not sustaining there all the time, well, this is your part, you have to work it out. But in this case particular, it's like, you see, spiritual practice puts you in front of your attachments, of all the things you need to let go, so that you can let go. And the more you intensify spiritual practice, the faster you will get in front of all this that you need to let go. And then you let go. Because if you get close to this and you don't let go, so what is the point? So something must happen to the practice. Or it has to reduce, or it becomes empty. It doesn't work. So, and I hear this a lot of times. So I'm in front of that challenge, that big challenge, and I'm not being able to cross. I'll go back to my I give up, then I go back to my practice. What does this mean? What does this mean? You go back to your practice, eventually it will lead you there again. But you were there. So why did you left? So for things to become alive, there must be something there. You must be giving the steps. Because this is, so the practice brings your attachments, that which you need to cross, and empowers you to a certain extent, the extent needed. Then it's in your hands. And whatever you do, if you follow, if you go through what is being pointed, then it continues and it intensifies. If you don't, well, then it dimmers and becomes, it's like this. So if you want to put your car, turn on your car, well, make sure that you really want to make that journey, or else it is futile. So if the things are not giving, are not sustaining, and this sustaining, I'm waiting for your, if you want to make this more concrete, what you mean about this, but there's a message always there. Would a breath practice like Nadi Shodhana help tamas or any breath work? Yes, it is. It is very good. It is very good, but understand that the majority of things uh, that help the spiritual practice is not only the spiritual practice, is that which is before spiritual practice and after spiritual practice, as long as spiritual practice is not 24/7. So this is important, because sometimes people focus too much on the techniques that will help, and because they don't want to touch at the source of this. So in the beginning, you will have to look at your routine, daily routine, to see if it is suited for the practice of meditation in this case. If the eating habits, the resting habits, the working habits, if they are suitable for this. Because again, Narishodhana is a very good pranayama, and in the beginning, this is very important also, very good exercise, because it starts balancing um, all the energetic system, or even the energies, the yin yang, but I don't like to go into these things. But still, they are there, as long as this is important. Um, and purifies the body, cleans the body, the physical body also, and the energetic body, and the mind. It cleans it, balances, and this this alone by itself, it is tremendous impact in your world. But as I was saying, so this, for beginners, it is very good, because bringing these balances will make a big difference in the way that practice is conducted. Even the, the motivations behind the practice, it will change. So a simple practice like this makes a huge difference. But still, if focus on the spiritual practices is some way, in some sense, a way to not touching this has ended here. Let me just continue. If this is just a way uh, to avoid touching in that which hurts, your attachments and all of this, to change your routines and like this, then you'll just be making more pressure and more pressure. And still, not big difference will be there. So how long would you suggest of Nadi Shodhana per day? This is not a recipe for all. I understand your question, Peter, but you have to understand that individual needs are there and they need to be taken in account. Your lifestyle, what you are doing, are you completely dedicated? You're not, what is it? All of this makes a difference because, well, you have little amount of time. You can do 3 to 5 cycles complete and it is okay, but you can increase this a lot and you can even use retentions. That depends on how you are, what kind of a life you have. So start with these 3 to 5 and then increase a little bit and see how you feel. Because these days is almost non-existent, but there is a phenomenon which is called excess of spiritual practices. An excess because you are not ready. So a lot of energy starts accumulating here. And your eyeballs seem to want to explode. This is too much energy, means your body is not ready. So it is a phenomenon because too much practices these days, well, it's almost extinct. But for those who practice intensely, sometimes they reach this point, and for them they will have because they are pushing the practices, but things are not really ready yet. There are things to work also in their lifestyle and all these things. So it has to be cut and then continue. Not then continue means one stops and the other no. Practice always continues, but what has to be done is to eliminate that it is in the front. Can I incorporate the bandhas with Nadi Shodhana? I don't recommend bandhas, and especially these days where lifestyles are completely inadequate for spiritual practice. Bandhas can make a lot of, how do you say this, a lot of damage. If the energy is not moving up, it because it is dense. So these practice with bandhas, they can be made if your body is very pure. See, if you remember the yogis, those very slim figures, and that eat just a few fruits or porridge or just some khichdi, and well, they could move this energy around. But even for them, if the energy is not rising, it's because it's not ready. It's because you're still clinging to worldly situations. Because when it's free from all of this, energy arises. So I don't recommend these bandhas because they can bring a lot of damage and they can twist, because it's like okay, so let's force this. So you have the good, the rotten apples mixing with the good apples, and if they are separated, so you preserve the good apples. If you mix them, then everything becomes rotten. So it's like, so the The more dense energy is concentrated at the lower levels. If it is not purified and you push it up, then this density will come also to the higher uh, spheres, and this creates a lot of damage and twists the motivations. It becomes something else. So I don't recommend that, not at all, because even these bandhas, they are how do you say this? It's an automatic mechanism when energy moves and is arising. And it doesn't mean that everybody has to go through these things, but the body will do that automatically with the arise of energy. So that is why it is rehearsed. It's like a rehearsal. Let's put the bandhas and but it's like rehearsing that which is natural. So if you intensify in purification, you invest in purification, and you work on your attachments, putting your life completely in tune with the spiritual quest, then when things are ready, energy will move up. Okay, so if there's nothing else, then we will end for today. And for those who are interested, see in our Facebooks and those things that you know uh, when the next one will be. Okay, so until next time, intensify your practices and look at your life. What is the purpose of that which you call your life? How are you using it? Do you think really that the amount of time that you are dedicating to your spiritual practices compared to the rest is good? Because at its highest means that if all activities of your day are concerned to your spiritual practices, then it is good. If it's not the case, then if this division already says a lot, and the time you are giving to those situations, it also gives a lot for those who want to understand what they are really doing. Okay, so till next time, intensify, make it real for you.